turning failures into lessons with Stoicism. The ancient Greek philosophy of Stoicism is frequently linked to fortitude, restraint, and a composed acceptance of life's challenges. The skill of turning setbacks into teaching moments is one of the most important lessons it imparts. According to Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, failure is not something to be feared or avoided, but rather a chance for development. They urge people to see failures as opportunities to grow as individuals. Here are 7 main elements that illustrate how Stoicism enables us to learn from our mistakes. 1. Accepting failure as a natural part of life. Accepting nature's path is a fundamental tenet of Stoicism. Stoics held that both success and failure are unavoidable parts of the human experience, and that life is unpredictable. According to this viewpoint, failure is no longer viewed as a bad thing, but rather as a neutral occurrence. We can approach each setback with interest rather than fear if we accept failure as a natural part of life. A Stoic reaction to failure is to accept that everyone experiences setbacks rather than moping in disappointment. In this sense, acceptance does not imply complacency, but rather a practical response to life's ups and downs, which facilitates learning from failure rather than allowing it to paralyze one. 2. Paying attention to what we can manage. The value of concentrating on what we can manage and letting go of what we cannot is one of Stoicism's core lessons. According to Epictetus, we should put more emphasis on our own deeds, attitudes, and decisions than on uncontrollable outside circumstances. Stoicism advises us to pay more attention to how we respond to failure than the actual result. Consider a scenario in which a job interview does not go well. We may have no influence over the interview's outcome, but we do have complete control over how we react to it. This emphasis on control promotes initiative. We accept responsibility for our actions and regard failure as a chance to develop and hone our strategy rather than seeing ourselves as victims of our circumstances. 3. Applying failure as a self-reflection tool. Self-improvement through self-reflection is highly valued in Stoicism. To analyze their deeds, ideas, and behaviors, the Stoics engaged in regular contemplation, frequently at the conclusion of the day. Stoicism urges us to evaluate our failures from an objective perspective, free from harsh criticism or self-judgment. When I think back on a failure, I ask myself things like, for example, analyzing the causes behind a project's failure at work can highlight areas where our planning or decision-making process is lacking and allow us to make improvements in the future. However, self-reflection should be approached with inquiry and compassion. The objective is to acquire knowledge that will enable us to make better decisions in the future, not to mope over past errors. Failure thus serves as a springboard for increased self-awareness and personal development. 4. Developing mental toughness and resilience. According to Stoicism, adversity and failure foster resilience, which is a quality necessary for one's development and fulfillment. According to Seneca, a person cannot be perfected without trials, nor a gem polished without friction. According to Stoic philosophy, failure is like the friction that polishes a jewel. Every setback improves our capacity to handle hardship with composure and poise. Seeing failure as a test of character is the Stoic approach to resilience. We also change how we view success when we view failure as a practice in resilience. We start to view success as the capacity to get back up after each setback, rather than the absence of failure. This way of thinking encourages bravery and tenacity, which enables us to face hardship head-on and accept failure as a necessary component of the path to achievement. 5. Working on distancing oneself from results. A key idea of Stoicism is detachment from results, which encourages us to act for its own sake instead than for the results it may yield. The Stoic method is to give it our all without getting too caught up in the outcome. For instance, a Stoic approach would be to see a failed business endeavor as an event that taught important lessons and insights rather than as a personal failure. When we're not firmly committed to a certain outcome, we're better equipped to change course and adapt our strategy when things don't work out as expected, transforming failures into learning experiences. 6. considering failure to be a transient situation rather than a permanent one. We learn from Stoicism to view failure as a passing occurrence rather than a permanent condition. Failure loses its ability to define us or influence our destiny when we accept it as a passing occurrence. For instance, we may first feel like failures when a relationship ends, but by taking a Stoic stance, we might view it as a teaching moment rather than a definitive assessment of our capacity for forming deep bonds. We can proceed with more hope and resolve when we accept failure as transient. We can concentrate on the lessons we've learned and how we can use them in our future undertakings rather than moping over the defeat. 7. Making failure a source of drive and inspiration. Last but not least, Stoicism encourages us to use failure as inspiration rather than a deterrent. We can turn failure into a motivating factor that pushes us to put in more effort, develop our abilities, and strengthen our resilience by redefining it as a task to overcome. This kind of thinking encourages a growth-oriented way of living. We see every setback as a stepping stone on the path to success, rather than as a reflection of our shortcomings. The basis of a Stoic perspective on life, which sees adversity as a necessary component of improving oneself, is this tenacity and resolve. To sum up, Stoicism provides a strong foundation for transforming setbacks into instructive life experiences. We can learn to deal with setbacks in a healthier and more positive way by accepting failure as a normal part of life, concentrating on the things we can control, reflecting on ourselves, developing resilience, practicing detachment, and seeing failure as transient. Failure, according to Stoicism, is a stepping stone on the road to development, wisdom, and personal fulfillment, rather than an end. Let us know in the comments what you think about the turning failures into lessons with Stoicism, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.